Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 55 Live podcast here in conjunction with the WZWA Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Karlifornia in Fury. It's a cold, cold night here in Perth, Western Australia. And at this time, I would, as per usual, like to introduce my co-host, Mr. 55 Live, Jack Wallace. Jack, how are you doing tonight, my brother?
Very well. As you said, it's extremely cold tonight. I went outside probably about 15 minutes ago, and I could feel my nipples falling off. To be quite honest with you, but
Are they like bullets?
Yeah, a bit like bullets. More like a teardrop, actually.
Right, fair enough, mate. Well, it's good to have you here, Jack, Mr. 55 Live. Good to have you on the show, as usual. And we've got a very special guest here tonight, Jack. He is a former member of the WCW roster in its heyday back in 1999 and 2000. He is known as the Stro, formerly WCW's Maestro. The Maestro, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great to be here with you guys.
Thanks for joining us, man. Really excited to have a chat with you about your wrestling career. And I guess the usual question we start this off with is, how did you first become a wrestling fan?
Oh yeah, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life actually. Growing up as a kid, watching the greats, Luthez, Harley Race, the Briscoe brothers, the Funks. The list goes on and on. The Hart family. It's just not just from the United States, from like all over the world, and to finally become a part of the pro wrestling business for as many years as I've been. It's living a dream, man. It's been a real great ride for me.
Awesome, bro. I guess, as time wears on, when you're a young'un watching wrestling, you grow up, you become a young man. There's got to be a point where you start wanting to get in the business yourself. What was that story for you as it pertains to getting to the business?
Oh gosh, I was in so many things growing up. I was in theater. I was like plays like Hamlet, Shakespeare, Macbeth, the Cats, Broadway. I was one of the Cats, believe it or not.
Wow.
got me a cool trip to New York, so it was really cool. And heavenly music, and amateur wrestling, football, etc. I wanted to pursue soccer quite a bit, like a lot of my friends, because I love soccer, but it always coincided with other sports that I did. So it is what it is. But wrestling always amateur, collegiate wrestling, which I came close to qualifying for the U.S. Olympic team, believe it or not.
Right.
When Matt Shack qualified for that. So and I help out with the kids for collegiate tournaments every now and then.
Yeah.
Coaching for them as well. So I have deep respect for people that have gone on to the Olympics and done well. I mean, like Luke, for example, Dan Gable.
Yeah.
One of my heroes that went on to the Olympics. Now I got a chance to wrestle with the Iowa Hawkeyes, so it was really cool. And then Kurt Angle, who I deeply much respect for, as well, and Ronda Rousey. The Olympic athletes are just a breed above your normal athlete. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me. So always have deep embedded respect for all my brothers and sisters of the mat, if you will.
Yeah. And eventually, at some point, you start training with under Nelson Royal, Gene Anderson, and Ivan Koloff.
Oh yeah, what a lineage, man! Oh my gosh, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew,
Yeah.
Gene Anderson, Ole, and Lars, and then of course Arn in the mix later on, and then Nelson Royal, arguably one of the greatest junior heavyweights of his time, and then Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. What can I say, man? One of the few people it's time to actually defeat the great Bruno Sammartino.
Absolutely.
Become the WWF champion, and went on to become one of the greatest tag team champions in the NWA with Don Cornetto and Nikita Koloff. So I mean, the man's done it. He was a machine right up to the time he retired. and to be trained in the learning tree with these guys was just tremendous, and it really propelled me to what lied ahead. And I remember watching the tape, one first tapes I studied in the school of Chief Wahoo McDaniel and the old man Johnny Valentine, Greg Hammer Valentine's dad.
Yeah.
And then later on, one of my first matches in the business was with Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Like, oh my God. So it's crazy. I mean, this business never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, no, as I was doing my research earlier, I was like, oh wow, like Wahoo was still going in the early '90s, and it must have been quite a trip to work with him. How was that experience?
Oh, it was fantastic. I remember one of our first encounters, right? I mean, he would chop you to no tomorrow. I mean, he had these big, huge hands. I mean, he would like tattoo your chest. And I remember one time during a match, I picked him up in a vertical suplex, right? And which was no easy task because he was a big guy, right?
Yeah.
And after the match, I'm sitting there, right, unlacing my boots, and Wahoo comes over to me, sits next to me, right beside me, shakes his head, and he says, "My God, kid, I haven't been picked up like that since Harley Race." That's how we broke the ice. And he really was really fond of Australia. Actually, he told me about how much he loved Australia so much that he almost stayed for almost a year in Australia because he said the fishing, the wildlife down was just so amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it is a big deal over here.
Yeah, nature's a big thing here. That's cool,
right?
Man. So at some point after your early days, you do become Robbie Eagle and join Smoky Mountain Wrestling. How did it come about that you joined with Jim Cornett's mob there?
Oh man, what I've been wrestling independently for a couple years before joining Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but Smoky Mountain Wrestling kind of was like my first territory.
Yeah.
And it was just tremendous. You had a great combination of veterans and up and coming young talent, such as myself. And Cornett, Rock and Roll Express, Tracy Smothers, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden. I mean, you had Kevin Sullivan, who's helped me tremendously over the years, and pretty much passed the torch to what I'm doing now with the whole Papa Stro thing, right? but yeah, it was great. Those guys helped me out so much, and to this day we're all good friends. And I can't thank Jim Cornett, Sandy Scott, and Tim Horner, which was kind of running the ship at the time, and Brian Hildebrand. Brian Hildebrand was there. God rest his soul. He was a tremendous guy, and I learned so much over there. And Chris Candido, which I love to death. At the time we were about the same age. You know what I mean? Living the dream. You had him, myself, Bobby Blaze.
Yeah.
It was just a great array of talent. I learned so much from him. And at the time, Smoky Mountain Wrestling was the liaison between the WWE and WCW, right? So they're kind of pulling talent from each. So we were like the third big territory, believe it or not, back then. So it was a great way to get started in your first territory, right?
Absolutely. Jack?
Yeah, so as you mentioned before, you started working for Jim Cornett with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. How was it working under Jim Cornett? How was he as a booker? What was your experience with him? Because everyone knows he's very passionate about the business, and that's probably a better thing for pretty much all wrestlers to be working under someone that genuinely loves the business so much. So how was that experience for you?
Oh, tremendous. Jim Cornette's like an encyclopedia of the business. I mean, he studied business up and down, and he was always great to us. And I really learned a lot from Jim. And Jim was another guy that's always been good to me. He's always helped me out. He always gave me great advice. And he was always straightforward. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can always. Jim was always, he come at you straight, and I really appreciate that, because in business and life, you'll get people to say one thing and do another, you know what I mean? But Jim was always pretty straight.
I think that's what you need as well as a wrestler, because of course you want honest feedback, and especially if it's coming from the guy you're working for. I think that's the most valuable part about it. What are some of your favorite memories of working with Chris Candido?
Oh man, tremendous. That guy could do it all. We had a great feud in Smoky Mountain Wrestling at one point with the Beat the Champ TV championship at one point, and Tim Horner was involved with that too, which Tim was always great too, and which I thought Tim Horner was probably one of the most underrated wrestlers ever in the business. Great wrestling technician. Him and Brad Armstrong were one heck of a team back in the day. The Lightning Express, if you can recall that. But Brad Armstrong's another one that oh my gosh, that guy. I mean, he can go with anybody. I mean, the dude didn't have just a six pack and like a freaking 8-pack. I mean, he was put together and so athletic and could have a great match with just about anybody, including a broomstick. Tremendous.
Yeah, he was absolutely awesome.
We've heard from so many people. Almost every episode, someone's mentioned how good Brad Armstrong was.
Yeah, I love him and his own family. I mean, they kind of accepted him as like one of the brothers. And I've wrestled every one of them, including Bullet Bob, and wow. Their dad is tough as nails, man. Oh my gosh, Bullet Bob. I remember they're telling me, Road Dogg and everybody was telling me about some of the fights they've had with their dad. Is like, yeah, they would hate to fight their dad because their dad wouldn't sell for them. They keep coming at them.
Awesome.
I love those guys, man. They're awesome.
Overall, from your time in Smoky Mountain, do you have any fun stories, and what are some of your best memories from the time in Smoky Mountain?
Ah, gosh, there's so many. Like Ricky and Robert, Rock and Roll Express were always great to me, and it was just amazing learning from them. As far as like tag team wrestling goes, I mean, you had some of the best. Rock and Roll Express, Heavenly Bodies, Dr. Tom Sweet Stand, and later on Jimmy Del Rey. Then Bobby Eaton got in the mix there in Smoky Mountain Wrestling at one point, and you had the oh gosh, it's like some of the best went through there. Macho Man Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, which we got to be friends later on, and we're still to this day. Jake Snake, I learned so much about ring psychology and everything through him, and I mean, he can talk to you about business, life, and everything. We've stayed up all night talking about just different things, and the sun will come up and like, Jake, do you realize we've been talking all night? And I was with him in Mexico actually for AAA, and for Triple Mania, and what a tremendous experience that was, and learned the lucha libre style and everything was really cool, and so many good stories in that. I remember asking Jake, because like he's like their style was very acrobatic, you know what I mean, and all that, and Jake was like, well, do you see me doing all that stuff? I just do my thing, man. So and Jake is like Andre the Giant over there because he's like 6'6",
Yeah.
But he was a lot of fun, and this day is one of my good friends. I always learn something new from Jake every time I see him, and he really helped me, give me some good advice too. So yeah, nothing but love for Jake.
Cool, man.
Hey, Jake's awesome. We saw him at one of his shows at the start of the year, here in Perth. Just telling stories at one of those bar shows that he does these days. A lot of fun. Seems like an awesome guy as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
So, Maestro, I wanted to bring it to 1993. I found a nice little nugget in my research. Your first experience at WCW, working on WCW Saturday Night, August 14th, 93. I think you know who I'm talking about. You worked with the one and only man called Sting. That must have been quite the experience. Tell me about your first experience in such a big company like WCW and working with a Hall of Famer.
Oh man, I've wrestled with Sting doing a couple eras. Of course, the surfer look Sting, right, with the blonde hair and everything, and then of course the crow Sting, WCW. Sting was always a class act, man, all the way, and a lot of us used to call him Ghost in the locker room because he just like come by and wave and say hello, coming back and forth. But he's such a cool guy, and he was always been straight with me, and it was always a pleasure to work with. And during that year, you mentioned my first break in WCW, I had some good matches. I had a match with Sting, like you mentioned. Cactus Jack and Max Payne had a good tag match with him, and this was my first experience with Cactus Jack, which was really cool. And during that time, Mick, man, he'll do anything, right? Mick was wide open, man. He was so cool. And Buff Bagwell, my first time wrestling with Buff, which we got to wrestle a little bit more later on, and towards the decade during WCW. So, yeah, it was a good way to break the ice. And it was funny because years ago when I was younger, I first met Black Jack Mulligan and Ric Flair at a convenience store, and I was helping them get their drinks to their car for the next town because they were kind of tired from the show, right? Well, fast forward, in the business, meeting back up with Blackjack and Rick, man, they actually remembered that night that I helped them carry their beverages to the car. So they took me out. They took me out, got me a drink later on the night after the show, right? So it was like, this is pretty cool. Small world.
Crazy. What was the backstage atmosphere like at that point in WCW '93?
Oh, it was awesome. At that time, WCW was like rocking the world. I mean, you had the Nitro, the Thunders. You had the NWO going on really strong. You had Goldberg, you had Sting, and I was like right in the middle of the hot seat during that time with Monday Night Wars and everything. So it was like really, really good timing, right? And I could be in a match with Rey Mysterio one night, and the next night in a match with one of the legends like Piper or Flair, Macho Man or something. I mean, it was just such a great time, and you had people from all over the world culminating together, the best from Europe, from Canada and Mexico, and just all points in between. I mean, it was just an awesome time and be involved in that. The ECW guys watch us. We would watch Raw. The Raw guys would watch us in the ECW. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun.
Would you see when you look back, was there a distinct difference between what 1993 was like when you're doing the odd shot here and there for WCW as opposed to when you were there full time?
Oh yeah, tremendously. I mean, the business you know how the business goes in cycles, like the peaks and valley stages, right? It was like peaking big time towards the end of the decade with the Monday Night Wars, almost to the point like it was in the 80s, if you will. And it would like, and it was spreading all over the world, like like even like Japan at one time had the NWO faction, right? And wrestling guys, the Great Muta and Chono and oh man, and Jushin Liger come in, and it was just it's such an exciting time.
Jack?
And of course, the guys from Europe, which I knew well, like Liam Regal, Fit Finley, Dave Taylor, Doc Dean, Robbie Brookside.
Yeah, just so many talented people.
Unreal, man. And those are just some of the names. Get Ultimo Dragon, and all the cruiserweights, which was phenomenal.
Oh, there's so many stacked names in that roster, and especially like even looking back when you're mentioning all the names from Smoky Mountain, because I'm 22, I'm not very familiar with a lot of Smoky Mountain stuff. But even just looking back then, and a lot of those names you're mentioning, just wow, what a roster back then! Like it's just when you look at it today, there's just not a half of the star power in wrestling as there used to be. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
Yeah,
right. It's changed a lot, and it's cool that people I've helped in the business kind of get back to. They're doing well, like Revival, FTR, Dax Hardwood, who I've helped in the business, and Cash Wheeler. They're still doing their thing. The AEW, and Sasha Banks even gave me a shout out. Gallows and Anderson, Bullet Club, Bobby Roode, Petey Williams, and different people over the years. I mean, that have had success, that I've had the fortune, ability to have helped, you know, with them. So it's really cool. I like to see people be successful, kids give back, because keep that machine rolling, and I vicariously live to their success.
Yeah.
That's just it's great. I mean, that's what it's all about. Helping keep the business and the art of pro wrestling alive. And I mean, it's still, I mean, even though with the entertainment involved, it's still very much a sport, and a very grueling sport at that. Where we even this pandemic, we still getting breaks. It's like 365 days a year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and everyone's still somehow they're still putting in work and still putting on shows, or at least some places are. But yeah, again,
right.
Another conversation for another day.
So exactly.
After coming up short so many times before and winning the Smoky Mountain Beat the Champ TV title over Candido, was this your first title?
Well, I've had different championships on the independent scene before then, but this was like more or less my first one for a major territory, like a Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Yep. And it broke the ice for a lot of things I had. So, which led me to Memphis Wrestling, actually, at one point, which and right during that time in '93, like you mentioned, I was doing back and forth shots with WCW, and which came another turning event in my career life, and something I didn't realize at the time was an actual shoot until I was Dusty Rhodes and William Regal and different people were comparing my style to the original Gorgeous George, right?
Right.
And it was kind of snowballing, right? And they were actually going to bring me in and do a deal with myself and Johnny B. Bad at the time. With that, which I was pretty excited about. But I was just so curious of why everybody kept saying, what I mean? So I went to my grandpa, right? And I was like, Grandpa, what's, help me out here. What's going on? I told him what the situation was like, and he looks at me, right? And he says, you didn't know? And I'm like, didn't know what, Grandpa? And he tells me that, sorry, he tells me that Gorgeous George was my granduncle, and that him and my grandpa were like amateur boxing buddies from back in the day before he broke into wrestling.
Oh, really?
So which floored me, right? So that inspired me to don the name Gorgeous George III, which I, in honor and retrospect of him, which I was under that name for quite a while before I got on WCW full time.
Wow.
I went to Mexico with it. I went all over the world. George III. And you had some great matches with Jerry the King Lawler. I was part of a Freebird clique in Memphis with Doug Gilbert and former world champ Tommy Wildfire Rich. And we had a feud with PG-13 at the time, which was great. And Brian Christopher, had some matches with him. Got a tag with Scott Hall when he was Razor Ramon. And matter of fact, funny story, like one of my first times full time with WCW, I'm in the back, with the agents, right? And Hall and Nash walk in, and Hall is like, he calls me George, right? From Memphis. He's like, hey, George, remember we used to beat up Lawler in Memphis? and all the agents looked at me like, was that you? I was like, well, duh. You know what I mean? Oh, tremendous.
So still in 1993, you ended up leaving Smoky Mountain. What was the reason for this?
Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
Yeah.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Sorry. So at the end of, in 1993, I ended up leaving Smoky Mountain Wrestling. What was this?
Oh, yeah. Well, because the opportunity came about with it started with Memphis Wrestling, actually. Yep. With USWA, and two guys who really helped me out with that. Well, William Regal said a lot of good things to a mutual friend of ours, Superstar Bill Dundee.
Yeah.
what you would call, he managed William Regal one time in WCW, and it was him and Larry Booker, one of the original Moondogs, tag team Moondogs, right? They put in a good word with me for Jerry Lawler in Memphis. So I came in as Gorgeous George III, and my style was a lot different per se, because I had that William Regal type style, more wrestling technician style, which was refreshing at the time from the old Memphis style, if you will, right? So I was more of the heel technician, more or less, with the Gorgeous George III persona. But it worked out pretty cool, and I mean, there were times some people were telling me I was wrestling too much, right? Which I thought that was pretty comical, but it was a good time. I had some great memories there in Memphis, and I learned a lot too, as far as being in the ring with Jerry the King Lawler and ring psychology. Because I mean, gosh, if you have a bad match with Lawler, something's wrong with the universe. I mean, he's so great at what he does.
I'd say I've ever seen a bad Lawler match.
I wanted to ask about, if you're sharing a locker room with PG-13, Tommy Rich, Brian Christopher, surely there's a bit of a party going on every now and then. Do you have any stories of times where you guys would party together?
Oh my God, Jamie, man, I love Jamie.
Jamie sounds insane.
Oh gosh, there were times, with Jamie, man, he gets so fired up, he goes like 100 miles per hour, man. Be talking like, guys, maybe you should do this and that, and maybe we should go to this, hang out here or there, whatever. I remember Tommy just looking at that chick and said, "Hey, Jamie, slow down, man. It's all good. I can't keep up with you." I love those guys, man. We had such good times. We had all kinds of crazy matches too. Even our mamas got involved. Tommy Rich's mama and Wolfie D's mama. He had cage matches, street fights, hair versus hair, you name it. Matter of fact, our hair versus hair match got the main event, the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, which was big at the time, because the main events usually would be more or less for Lawler and Dundee, right?
Yeah.
So it was a big deal. So I was like, yeah, this is really cool. But yeah, those guys were great. I love those guys. We had so much fun, man, and I could wrestle with those guys forever, man. It was such a good time, and I really learned a lot being in the ring with them.
Do you have any fun rib stories or shenanigans backstage in USWA?
Oh God, too many. Too many. Oh geez. I remember. Oh geez. I'm trying to think of one. A good one there. Oh yeah. I remember one. There's been so many over the years. I mean, God, so many good ribs. I remember one time I pulled a rib during a house show where one of those soaps that makes your hands change color, right?
Yeah.
I brought one of the bars of soap to the locker in the back in the bathroom, right? And just placed it there, and say who would like take the bait, if you will, and wash your hands in it. And one of the younger wrestlers actually took the bait, and they were washing their hands. And the reason why we knew, because that night he came out to the ring wearing like these palm olive gloves on to cover up those multicolored hands. You know what I mean?
That is a very creative rib,
good.
if I do
That's
say so
good.
myself.
Oh yeah,
I've heard anything like that before.
Tremendous. And Buddy Landale, oh my gosh, what a heel he was. Nature Boy. You guys remember Buddy Landale, right?
Yeah, I know of him.
Oh gosh, he would get he would get people so riled up sometimes. I mean, just his shenanigans alone, right? And I know even Tracy Smothers, who's usually like wide open, he'll do anything. He even tell Buddy, calm down, man. I want to get home tonight, because he would get the crowd so fired up, you know what I mean? But and yeah, Tracy Smothers, man, I love. This is one of the guys who's helped me out so much. I had some great matches with Tracy then, and love the guy to death. He's always tough as nails, man. And there were a couple of times that you would get upset with somebody out, and I'd be in the ring with them. I would have to like really hook him to calm him down. Because if I didn't, I was trying to save the other guy's life, because if I let him go, he'd go after that dude, man. But he's great, man. I love Tracy. He really taught me a lot. And like I said, Buddy was another one, or Ricky and Robert was great. I love watching the tag matches, even to be in the ring with them. I mean, it just like a reminder of how the art of tag team wrestling really was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, the timing and everything. I mean, they were so smooth and precise with everything they did. And I remember Bobby Eaton one time. I'd say him and Ricky Steamboat were the two of the smoothest wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with, hands down. There are times where I couldn't even feel Bobby Eaton in the ring. That's how smooth he was. And the next thing you know, he's doing the transitions and everything. It's like, wow, man. I mean, amazing. Bobby's and it's ironic because Bobby and Ricky are two of the nicest guys in the business, but yet two of the greatest ring artists.
Right, yeah. Ever. Bobby certainly had one of the best working punches.
Oh, fantastic. I would say him, Bobby Eaton, Jerry Lawler, Hacksaw Butch Reed, who was like with Doom at one point with Ron Simmons. Those guys had some of the best punches, man, to this day. And I always put those guys over, like anybody wants to learn how to punch, study these guys on tape, man, because their punches are just sharp as sharp can be. You know?
That's it, yeah. I want to ask you before I throw it back to Jack about first of all, what you feel you learned most in USWA. Obviously, you went there with a little bit of a more different style to the Memphis crew, but also what led you to leaving Memphis?
Well, I had a great run there in Memphis. It was just one of those things. It was time to kind of change up things, if you will, and I saw the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico at the time.
Right. So is this kind of like a running theme with your career? Like you spent time somewhere, it gets to a point where you're like, you know what, I think I need to try something else. And then you go elsewhere, you have a run there. Okay, it's time to go somewhere else to freshen things up. Is that kind of how your career went in the 90s? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You know, just like kind of like back in the day when guys and gals go from territory to territory. You know what I mean? And,
right.
And it's a shame. You know what I mean? Because it was a good time then. Because I mean, you can still go to somewhere new and still be fresh. You know
right.
I mean?
Yeah. It's like you're one of the last guys that got to actually work different territories and go from one place to another and it be fresh, because you know it's not all over the internet and everything.
Jack, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your time in Puerto Rico, like how was that whole experience? Of course, you know, Puerto Rico is
it sounds crazy down there.
So far away from where we are, man. So I'm very interested in how that was.
The TV was so strong on the island, you know what I mean? And it was really cool because you had the interviews, pretty much like you do with any time you go overseas, a different country, you have a translator, you know, to translate your promos and everything, and then you go hit the different towns, and it's crazy driving down there in Puerto Rico because like the emergency lane is literally the third lane, a lot of places. But it was great to, you know, be like Carlos Colon and some of the Puerto Rican legends there. Matter of fact, Bronco, who was a huge heel from the Dominican Republic. He was a great guy. Gosh, one time he called the people a bunch of Haitians in one of the shows, and they set his car on fire, and we had to take him home.
Jesus
Christ! Holy shit!
And you know, and you're in there with Abdullah, right? Like Abdullah Butcher, and you know they're throwing stuff at you, and actually, when you're brawling Abdullah, he's saving you from the debris. The crowd was, because they're throwing all kinds of junk at you. And I remember I told this funny story one time. I was wrestling Jungle Jim Steele at one point, and I grabbed a banana from the crowd, brought it to the ring, and and asked him if he was hungry, and used a banana on him, and he started chasing me around, and he slipped on the banana peel. And the tag match after us, they're all slipping on banana and everything. That was ridiculous.
Oh, that's
great. But lot of good times in Puerto Rico, man. I learned a lot, and some of the WWE talent would go down there, like King Mabel was down there, was with him, and we got tagged with. They're in Memphis and everything, because like when I was in Memphis, it was kind of like the NXT of the time.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
WWE talent, right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Puerto Rico was a great experience. I learned quite a bit, and and then from there, actually, if I recall, it was here when I had my first tryout with WCW.
Right.
Macho Man called me. Macho Man called my condo. I was on, and Val Venus. I was with him, Sean Morley. He answered the phone, right? And he said, "It's for you." And he looked at me. He said, "You're not gonna believe who this is, right?" Some Macho Man. And I'm like, "Get out of here, man!" So Randy Savage on the phone, and he's like, "Man, he talks just like he does his promos, right?" And so he's on the phone. Sure enough, there's a, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Randy." And him and Hogan were trying to hook me up with a tryout match, because see, Jerry Jarrett was a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And Jerry liked me a lot because I was like one of the shooters. You know what I mean? He liked all the shooters and tough guys and stuff.
Yeah.
And Macho Man was a big, gorgeous George guy, right? You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. I think he bought the rights to the gimmick, didn't he?
Yeah, he threw me.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But
he was going to give it to his brother, wasn't he?
Yeah, and this
Never
was going to lead up to it. That never happened. So, and the tryout match was good. I mean, I had Jeff Farmer was the guy originally I tried out with, which was of course the NWO
Cobra?
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that was an experience. But then I just went on doing my thing, Gorgeous George, doing my thing, and then when hooked up with Jake, went to Mexico for AAA, for Triple Mania, and toured Mexico for a bit that summer, which was hottest part of the summer too, man. I lost so much weight because I would but I could stand the heat over there because it's more of a dry heat. You know, what I mean, it's not much humidity like where I'm at now.
Oh, right.
Carolina, good Lord.
You must have really stood out with that blonde hair in Mexico and Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah, tremendous. People be waving me down the street, you know, like ooh la la, you know, and all that. And crazy stuff, man. And in Mexico, I became a vegetarian in Mexico because you can't really trust the water too much over there.
No.
But the salsa was good, right? And gosh, they put cheese on everything. It's crazy. And I remember doing our first interview with Jake and I for the AAA, right? And they're talking about getting ready for Triple Mania, and they're asking Jake, "Is like, so guys, how do you like Mexico, right?" And Jake pretty much told the truth. Is, "Look here, man, the food sucks. We've been snacking on a box of Raisin Bran the whole week. It's hot as hell." You know? And Jake was so real, man. You don't always something. Jake's brain never stops working. You know, you meet some people where they never stop thinking about ideas and stuff. Jake was just one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he smartest senior college professor. But I had a great one with him. Then came back. I did hung out with him in Texas for a bit and did a few Texas shots while I was there and hanging out. And then that's when I got called to get a second tryout match in WCW. So I went down there, and my second tryout match was Chavo Guerrero Jr., which I couldn't have been more happier because I much love and respect for the Guerrero family. I mean, all those guys are just tremendous.
Yeah, who better to wrestle in your tryout match than someone who's definitely going to make you look good?
Oh my gosh, and we had a great match too. And I remember Diamond Dallas Page, through Jake, I met different people like Steve Austin, Diamond Dallas Page, Raven, you know, because we're all have mutual friends and Jake, right?
Yeah.
And Dallas said was putting the match over her like it was like light years great and all this,
Yeah.
and then the agents walked in, right? You know how the agents do; they give you all these different stories, yada yada. You don't know which one to believe, right? So I remember when my grandpa told me a long time ago, he says, "Always know who the boss is," right? So Eric Bischoff walks in. He says, "Great match, guys. We can use a good talent like you. Welcome aboard." And when he said that, all those agents went, "Oh, great match. That was awesome." You know, this and that. And I knew right then and there, if there was a problem, had an issue, Eric was the guy, right?
Right.
And I walked out, and everybody was in line to shake my hand, welcome me in the company. It was like one of the greatest feelings in the world, man. I just can't put into words.
That's really cool, man. Jack, we've moved a little bit ahead here in the timeline into '97.
That's good. It's fine.
Do you know where we're at?
I do. I've been following along.
Cool.
I've been editing my sheet as I go.
Cool. I got a little lost for a second. That's all.
Oh no, I'm completely good. So
yeah, I think I just messed up my document a bit, but yeah, keep going, Jack.
yeah. So of course
I did the same thing. I know how you feel.
Yeah.
So in '97 on October 9th, you did the WCW Pro taping against Eddie Jackie, and of course, you just told the story about about eventually getting signed. So of course, in this time you portray Gorgeous George III for the last time against Evan Courageous in a dark match on Thunder for the 14th of May in '98. Was it a bittersweet moment saying goodbye to Gorgeous George III? Because I know that gimmick would have carried a bit of sentimental value to you, given it being family related.
Well, I wasn't sure how long I was going to last, if you will. So I just kept on doing what I was doing, and matter of fact, the first year of the company, I was, like I said, I'm still the name Gorgeous George III, but then Randy Savage just wanted to use the name for his valet at the time, Stephanie Bellers, right? So I still kind of wanted to work things out. So I had a meeting with Eric Bischoff, and we put our heads together and come up with a few ideas, and that's how the Maestro pretty much was born, which was a throwback from the Gorgeous George III persona I was doing, but more of a musical twist because my theatrical background and everything, right?
Right.
It's kind of a.
I worked with Jimmy Hart for that.
Yeah.
Because we're like one of the few that knew anything about music in the company. And plus, it was great because Jimmy and I had that Memphis background too. You know what I mean?
Of course.
He was Memphis wrestling too.
So it's kind of a collaboration with you and Eric on this gimmick.
Mm-hmm. And and Eric was another guy that was always straight with me. He was always cool with me, and I'll always be indebted for that. I mean, you hear stories about guys doing this and that, but you always appreciate the ones that are straightforward with you and legitimately want to help you out. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But that's how the Maestro was born, more or less. And there was times where I had to really kick in those pedals, the bass and the piano, because the crowd noise would drown out the sound. And
right.
when I was playing the piano, right. And Sting and I were only two doing the deal where we're coming out of the rafters in our entrances. Like I'd come out of the rafters in the candelabra, Baby Grand, right?
Yeah.
I would have harness in my back attached to my tights where I was propel myself just in case the contraption would fall, right? And I worked with a stuntman prior to that, and Sting did the same thing with his entrances after the passing of Owen, in which the Hart family, like I mentioned, I think I mentioned it earlier, much love for the Hart family. I knew Owen, and matter of fact, my WWE tryout prior to entering WCW, Owen was there because myself and Chris Benoit were trying out at the same time.
All right.
And neither Chris or I, it just didn't work out at the time at WWE, but we ended up in WCW later.
Yeah.
And so I asked Brett for permission to do the entrance, because if he would have said no, out of respect for the Hart family, I would have told Bischoff in the office, like, no, I can't do it. You know what I mean? But he gave me the green light to do it. Brett did. So
that's cool.
But I just want to make sure it was cool before I did, because I didn't want, I love the Hart family to death so much.
Absolutely.
And one of my trainers, Nelson Royal, was good friends with the old man Stu, right?
Yeah.
So and that's how broke the ice, the Harts.
So you starting to portray the Maestro character, and you eventually get put on TV finally, and Symphony, aka Ryan Shamrock, ends up being your valet. She's so hot. What was it like working with her?
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great. My original picks, actually, when they came up to me to manage me, were Bobby Heenan and Sherry Martel.
Yeah.
And Bobby wanted the gig, but he was too busy at the time doing commentary, Shivani, right?
Yeah.
And all that. And then Sherry almost had it, right? And then I think that's when they realized that Alicia Webb was coming into the company, right? So they wanted to put Alicia with me. But that was great, man. I love Alicia. She's what a sweetheart of a lady, and it was so great working with her. I mean, she was always positive and happy-go-lucky, right? And even to this day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really happy to put us together. It was a pleasure to work with her.
Cool, man. Early on in your run as the Maestro, you worked with Dale Torborg, Norman Smiley, Prince Ikea, Brian Knobs, Evan Courageous, Kaz Hayashi, just to name a few. What are your fondest memories of these early times on television in this character in the company?
Oh, it was going great. And I saw a lot of historical events when I was there. First off, when the Radicals left, went to WWE.
Yeah.
And which they were my writing buddies. I was like, what am I gonna do? Eddie, Chris, Barry, Dean. You know what I mean? But yeah, I saw a lot of historical events when I was there during the time, and I made the best of it. And I know Norman Smiley. I've had many great matches with him, wrestling matches, even hardcore matches, and
yeah,
class act guy all the way. Buff Bagwell. Oh, he was great. Of course, Ernest the Cat Miller. Just a very entertaining guy and 3-time karate champ, man. I mean, tough as nails in the karate world. But I think a lot of our matches, I just have him do the karate on me, and I do the wrestling, and just do what we do best. You know what I mean? And it worked. It really did. And to bring James Brown in the mix, which is not even Vince did that at one point. So that was a pretty big deal. And to meet James Brown and James was a big. He would tell me about how much my grand uncle meant to him, Gorgeous George, because he Gorgeous George inspired him, Muhammad Ali, and a lot of other entertainment and athletic personalities through the years.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
To get his take on it, man, was like really, really, really cool. And yeah, it was just a great time. I don't regret the WCW run at all. I cherish it. I mean, because it was during the time the company was doing good, and this was right before things started spiraling. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
With that. And my contract was up right before it got really bad. Like,
yeah.
I remember.
I think you were there on the evening of the Bischoff Russo era beginning.
Yeah, it was their beginning. It was my last. My last match, right?
I wanted to scale it back a little bit and ask you, about when you start the character with Eric Bischoff. Not long afterward, he's gone, and then Vince Russo comes in. How did you find working underneath Vince Russo?
Well,
I think you would have booked the angle that you had with David Flair.
Yeah, and that was going to lead to other things, actually. And eventually, Rick, which I was really looking forward to that, but it never really transpired. And I know, Rick was looking forward to it as well, and because I talked to Rick quite a bit, and it was just one of those things. It wasn't just my deal; it was a lot of deals that could have been great, but it just fell for the wayside because during that time, and Russo even left at one point.
Yeah.
And we had like a boss every 2 weeks, and it was like the right hand didn't know what left hand was doing, and us as talent, we were just trying to make omelet a few eggs. You know what I mean? So
because it seemed to me like the Maestro character was getting a little bit of momentum there. Then once Kevin Sullivan kind of took over, you were doing the stuff with the cat, and then it just kind of seemed like after the cat thing had transpired and finished up, that things were just winding down a little bit. Is that how you see it too?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like maybe they didn't know exactly what to do with the Maestro. I don't know.
Right. Well, I don't think it was Kevin, honestly, as it was just because, I mean, gosh, they had this Bill Bush came in, and he didn't know who that guy was.
Yeah.
and there was Spiegel, I believe Spiegel came by, and a few other people, and then and Bischoff tried to come back to save at the end, but it was just too late at that point. Because I remember even after my contract was up, I'd come back to see some of my friends a couple months later, and they were like doing the Nitros and Thunders in the same night, and just seeing how worn out Lance Storm was and Rick and everybody was. I was like, oh man, it was nuts.
I wanted to talk about some of your final televised matches. There's a loss on Nitro to Bagwell, a win over the Demon on Worldwide, and a win over the Cat on Nitro, and then losing to the Cat on the March 7th edition of Thunder. During this point, I guess your contract is probably coming up. Did you know your time in WCW is coming to an end? Were there negotiations taking place over possibly re-signing, or what was happening during those last few weeks?
Well, actually, the last match I had with Ernest Cat Miller was supposed to be for that following pay-per-view, uncensored, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we'd started Super Brawl with James Brown, and there were talks about even bringing Vanilla Ice and.
Really?
and we were all excited about it, man. I mean, and Terry Taylor, he was putting it all together, man. And he was a big fan of our feud, man. And everybody's so hyped. I remember Vampiro telling me after the deal with James Brown there in San Francisco, right? I get in the back, and he's telling me, bro, that was some of the best facial expressions I've ever seen in my life.
that was great, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw James Brown and I did the Fred Sanford passing out.
Yeah.
Fred Sanford's son. Yeah, you know what I mean? Oh, it was hysterical. Oh my God. But they changed it up to a rematch to a Thunder.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah. And a lot of weird things happening, and
and
I was going to try to work things out to resign. And then I had these financial advisors were telling me that how badly things were financially going with the company, right?
Right.
And not only that, I remember one time I saw Elliot Murdoch give Ric Flair some house show figures, right? And he stepped into him and was like, "My God, what are they doing?" And I knew right then that wasn't a good sign. And I just I remember getting a call from them saying that we'd love to have you. It's just but this and that. And I remember telling this dude, I already know. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were a few guys around that time period that ended up either getting released or their contract just expired and they didn't re-sign them. Guys like Lodi and Lenny Lane, etc.
Yeah. I was heading to ECW after that. I was trying to head to ECW, and we doggone the same thing happened to them. They folded. It was like a domino effect.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tragic when you look back at it. The final match shown on TV with the Maestro is a win over Frankie Lancaster on Saturday night on March 15th. Kind of coming full circle there. The first time you did perform on a WCW TV show was Saturday night, and you get in there with Frankie on March 15th. Then you work a bunch of house show matches with the Cat and Mike Jones before it's all over. When you look back on your time in WCW, how much does that time mean to you?
Oh, it means so much. It was really great. Being part of, at one time, one of the biggest companies, if not the biggest company in the world at that time, was a big honor. And that time I always cherish. I mean, the wrestling family. I mean, just seeing all the wrestling family from all over the world come together like that. I mean, it's special. It really is.
Jack,
it's definitely looking back on it as well. It's just there must be such a special thing to look back on, especially unique. Is not how many people were on the roster at the time? Definitely under 100. Only those people. Only those people.
Right. Crazy, yeah.
Only you guys got to experience.
And a lot of. And the funny thing is, some of them stayed home for a while. They were on a contract. So really, you never know how many, the exact number.
Randy Savage's brother was under contract for 4 or 5 years, and he never made it onto television. He just sat at home and collected the paycheck. So,
sign me up, right? Sign me up. But even then, it's just being able to be a part of that time period, especially even to this day, still hundreds and thousands of fans still, think about it and reminisce about it all the time. And it must be an awesome and special feeling to sort of look back on that. But I wanted to sort of ask you as well. This is a question we like to ask a fair bit with a lot of the guys who were around that time. Did you see any of the invasion angle? We just love hearing wrestlers talk about how badly WWE fucked that angle up. Because obviously that could have just...
Anyone could have booked it.
I can't stress enough at how...
a child would have booked it better. A child.
Even if they just waited 9 months. Just
a little bit. Just wait a little while. What do you think, Papa Stro? What did you think of it?
It wasn't as effective as it could have been without the key players. If you're going to have to do invasion, you can do it right. Do it with the key players that made the company. You know what I mean?
And it's essentially a one-in-a-lifetime storyline as well. You're not going to be able to do that for a very, very, very long time. Just...
A lot of the main players also had a lot to give still at the time, so that angle could have lasted several years.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was when they started, there was no Flair, no Sting, and some of the guys that were still around, they were doing. You saw what they were doing with them,
Yeah,
definitely. And I don't think throughout that storyline, what they were actually doing was bad. It was just who they had doing it. It's all they had to do was just replace some of the cast with some of the stuff they were doing. Not all of it. Some of it was fucking awful, but for the most part, also, if you know what I mean,
I can only imagine what they would have done with me. Oh, I'll probably be conducting the elevator music as the Maestro, or bathroom custodian, kind of like they did with Brother Love, right? At this, WrestleMania.
Yeah. Did you have any contact with the WWF at that time whatsoever in 2001?
Yeah. I got friends. I've had friends up there for quite a while. It's just, even to this day, for some reason, there's no been offer at a table for me or anything. But I mean, this never transpired for some reason. But I mean, I do have friends up there. I keep in touch with, and they've been really good to me, actually. Giving me coverage and stuff on the network and everything, and they put me on the 15 superstars that rock section on their website, and I mean, that was very flattering. So,
how was the health of the indie circuit after you left?
It was okay. I mean, it was really nothing new for me because I've the indies where I came from, and kind of going back home, if you will, and but this time around, I got involved in many other things, like the acting, which I'm doing now, which I've done various films and series, and which I'm still in the series, actually, on the Veiled TV called The Dusk, which I star as the Chief. It's a supernatural series.
Cool.
There's Senegay, the Roku, Amazon Fire TV and Apple TV. And yeah, I'm doing that, and I got a couple films coming out as well. Yeah, I was in like One Tree Hill TV series, One Tree Hill, Sleepy Hollow on Fox, Secrets of Lies on ABC, and just various Good Behavior on TNT. So yeah, just various films and series through the years, and I got 2 films coming out soon. One's I'm gonna be on set for. It's a Harlequin origin story called The Devil's Daughter, which I'll be portraying Dr. Jeremy Arkham in that film, and another horror film that'll be out either end of this year, beginning of next year, will be called Stench of Iniquity, where I'll be portraying an ancient vampire named Abba.
Wow.
In that film.
Awesome. The sort of horror films where you specialize, a lot of your, like for most of your films, or is it sort of just you sort of just take what you can get?
I mean, pretty much. But I've always had a deep love for the old school horror sci-fi genre, and I have my own show on my Facebook every Friday night at 12 midnight, actually Eastern Standard Time. Facebook.com/Stro the Maestro, called the Stro Zone, in which myself and Dorothy and the whole gang, I do these little intros to these old school horror and sci-fi flicks, right? So those are always a lot of fun. And because I was a big fan of Vincent Price back in the day, and Twilight Zone and all that.
Yeah, all the creepy stuff.
I even did a cheesy horror film your way, right? Called Dead or Country.
Yeah.
And about these space zombies invading Australia. And I was like portraying myself visiting Australia, and they're trying to do an interview with me on the phone, and I'm warning them about these zombies attacking people. Sarah Karloff was in it. Boris Karloff's daughter was in it, right?
Cool.
Yeah, I think the director's name was Andrew Merkelbach. I think that was his name.
Awesome. We'll have to plug that down below.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Have you, Carl?
Okay.
I love his intro. It said, "Things have never been deader country."
And it's in Australia, of course, because 70% of our country is desert, which is all just nothing there.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about a run you had in a company called NWA Mountain State Wrestling between 2008 and 2011. It's kind of like your last run where you're working in one company quite a lot. How was that experience for you?
Oh man, that was special. Going back to the roots, with NWA and everything, and I've always had deep love for the National Wrestling Alliance, even back when I was a kid, right? So, and to win the Mountain State Wrestling Championship like three times, I believe, was a big deal, and it got me shots at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, who at the time champ was Adam Pearce, and we had some really, really, really great matches together. We'll class that guy. So, and it's really cool seeing him now doing his thing in the WWE in the back and everything. So
awesome, man. So I want to also ask you what your kind of your ideal scenario would be for you to have your final match.
Oh my gosh. I haven't really put much thought into like my final match, but I just hope it's against someone really, really great. I mean, I know there's some people still left in the bucket list up. I would love to step in the ring with Kurt Angle being one of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Because and so I mean, if by hook or crook that can happen, I mean, that'd be a big, huge honor for me.
Right. As it should be for anyone. Kurt Angle's just one of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
What do you hope your fans and peers think of when they think about the Maestro or yourself?
Oh, well, just just an entertaining guy who enjoys what he does, and because I'm, that's part of who I am anyway. I'm just a happy-go-lucky person that just enjoys doing what I'm doing, whether it's writing, wrestling, acting, what have you. So I just want to help uplift people, inspire people, and just help make the world a happier place.
That's
awesome, man. Jack, do you have anything else you want to add before I get to 5 Second Frenzy?
We'll just finish off sort of something that's always a bit of a career retrospect, and it's also a bit of a hard question too. Do you have any regrets from your time in pro wrestling overall?
Never. Oh my God.
Oh.
I've had a crazy life, but it's been the best ever. I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's my favorite.
So many stories I can. There's so many great stories I could tell you. Oh my gosh. Funny stories. Let me tell you the chicken story, guys. I don't know if you heard this one yet.
Go on.
Okay.
Uncle Terry Funk. I adopted him as my uncle, and I told him I was coming. And every time I see him, I tell him Uncle Terry. Right? He's so cool. Well, one time we're shooting promos leading up to the event that night, right? And I'm waiting to do mine, and Terry's doing his by his match with Ric Flair, right?
Yeah.
And he's got this trash bag in his hand, and everybody's asking Uncle Terry, he's like, "Terry's, what's in the bag?" And he's like, "I'm saving it for the interview," right? So he starts the promo, right? They're taping it, and he reaches his bag, pulls out this rancid dead chicken. He's supposed to from his ranch, Texas. I don't know how he got the darn thing on a plane, right? So he's put the chicken. He's checking the camera, right? And he says, "You see this chicken? I shall now compare its anatomy to that of one Ric Flair. See these skinny legs? These are the legs of Ric Flair. See this beak? This is the schnoz of Ric Flair. And I'm going to take Ric Flair by the neck." And he's grabbing the chicken as he's saying this, right? "And I'm going to whip him like a dog that he is." He's beating the chicken on the ground, feathers flying everywhere. I think Dustin Rose, he's like laughing, holding his ribs. I spit up my water bottle. The whole joint's howling laughing, right? Later on that night, I'm going to the hotel. They put us up at a really nice hotel, by the way. And the bellboy, who was like taking the luggage to take back the building inside, was running around the parking lot like he was lost with the same trash bag Terry had earlier. So I was curious, right? So I went up to him and said, "Hey, kid, you all right? What's going on?" And he says, "Some old man gave me this dead chicken, and I don't know what to do with it." It was Terry. Yeah.
Just adds a dead chicken to this kid.
That's legit the sort of shit we would fucking joke about.
Oh my gosh!
That's good.
That was great. Good stuff, man.
All right. Well, this is the next segment. Maestro is called 5 Second Frenzy. I just ask you a bunch of questions, and you've got 5 seconds to answer them. Just quick fire, just to learn a little bit about you and some of the things that you like. What's the favorite match you've ever had?
Favorite match I had? Rob Van Dam, man. I used to love wrestling that guy, man. We'd go all out. Great guy.
And would he be your favorite opponent?
Definitely one of the top 5.
Who's your actual favorite wrestler?
I would say, oh gosh, I mean, it would have right up there with Kurt Angle, we mentioned earlier, and Harley Race.
Good
choice.
Your favorite film?
Favorite film? Ooh. So many, because
it's going to be
like
hard for you to answer. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. Let me think on that one. Favorite film? Oh gosh. Godfather.
No pressure or anything. You don't have to worry about the 5-second thing. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Al Pacino fan. So
right, cool.
I'm all about some Al Pacino, man.
In your favorite TV show?
TV show, Walking Dead. Love that show.
Excellent.
Nice.
I still haven't watched it, and I don't know anything that's ever happened, but I'm going to get into it because people keep telling me about it. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Anything grilled. Love grilled food.
Nice.
Your favorite alcoholic beverage?
Alcoholic beverage. Ah, gosh. Well, I guess when I used to drink, rather, it was like beer. But I used to have a thing for sea breezes, man, because I love cranberry juice. If I can taste the alcohol, look out.
Fair enough. I got two more.
No, wait a minute now. It would have to be kamikazes. Eddie Guerrero got me hooked on them. Eddie
right. I've heard many good things about him.
God bless Eddie Guerrero.
Bonsai.
What's your favorite female body part?
Oh my God. I like the whole package. You know, I can't really decide.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like
We've
thing.
had that answer before as well, so that's cool.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
And lastly, what's your favorite curse word?
Damn.
Yes. That's the best answer we've had so far, to be honest.
Well, Maestro, I want to thank you for your time tonight, and well, today for you. It's been real cool having a chat with you about your career. And, you know, I want to say, as Jack mentioned earlier, you're one of the very few that can say that they were in one of the major companies at the hottest time wrestling ever had. And you should be incredibly proud of that and everything that you accomplished.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to let you guys know, I failed to mention earlier, I'm part of the Bullet Kliq now, which is a kind of international clique. And it started from Australia. I don't know if you heard of Bullet Kliq.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. With like the Nikki Nitro, and like I think we have members in Singapore and different places.
Right,
so,
cool.
Yeah, big
Awesome,
international deal. So
yeah, I think that's
sweet.
Somewhere around here.
Right.
Well, thanks, bro, and yeah, we appreciate your time tonight.
Oh, thank you guys, and yeah, keep in touch.
We shall.
Will do, man. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the 55 Live podcast in conjunction with the WZWA Network. I'm Karlifornia alongside the Maestro and Jack Wallace, and we will see you next time. Thank you.